woods is where we landed. We're 2 rows and next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Greasy Grove will soon be upon us. Katie High like we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. Wheeling Woods is where we landed. We're 2 rows and next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Greasy Grove will soon be upon us. Katie High like we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Unplugged Unfiltered. I'm your host, Brian Clements, alongside Bob Clement, somewhere over there. Anyways,
I'm Steve.
And then Steve. So tonight is fun. We've got Steve on as a special guest. I'll get into Steve's story a little bit, but yeah, I'm super excited. It's going to be a fun podcast. If you're in the Kansas City area, I guarantee you know this business that Steve built, and it's gonna be fun to hear his story around it. Luckily, I don't think he ever felt or dealt with any struggles in his business. So he's gonna teach us how to run a business that never has any struggles,
Right.
never has any issues, and it's just a profit machine from the get-go. So
Right.
Bob,
Interested in investing in that business.
I'm ready for that. Honestly, I say we go for it. I think you drop your company, I drop mine, and then we'll just go after Steve's business. So, but anyways, so going back to Steve, I've known Steve for a really, really long time.
Hey, let's only put one really in.
I've known him for a really long time. But again, if you're from Kansas City and if you've been to Crown Center, I guarantee you've been to Steve's business. He started the Casey Fudge, which then turned into Chip's Chocolate Factory, and also the candy store that was down on the second floor.
First floor.
First floor, yes.
Yep.
Fudge was
Chips
on second.
Yep.
But
Who's on first?
Who's on first? What's on second? I don't know. Who's on third or however that goes. But no, I'm super excited because what Steve built with Casey Fudge, which is now Chip's Chocolate Factory, it takes things from just being a business to truly being an icon. Generations have come back, kids who saw Steve making fudge when they were young and are now bringing their kids back to it. So it's truly become an iconic business of Kansas City. And I'm super excited to kind of talk to him about it. So Steve, introduce yourself a little bit. Tell us a little bit. Our camera fell off there for a second. But tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of what got you started in, Casey Fudge.
Okay. Steve Manglos. I went to college at Warrensburg and majored in aviation flight technology. Actually graduated and considered going that direction. But I wanted to get married, and flying and being married back in those days was not a good combination. So I was encouraged to find something else to do or tell that little girl goodbye and go fly airplanes. So I didn't know how to do that. So we looked around. My dad came up with an idea. Hey, your cousin owns a fudge shop in Michigan, which is where I always wanted to live. And then he also lived in Seattle. He owned Seattle Fudge. And so I asked him, can we buy your shop in Michigan? He said, no, but I'll help you get started in Kansas City. So we looked at a couple different locations. Crown Center ended up to be the best opportunity because it is a touristy product.
Yeah.
And we just started with 8 flavors of fudge. That was it.
Yeah. Just
anything you want, as long as you want one of those flavors
one of those
fudge.
8 flavors. Yeah.
So then, as time went by, I went, we should probably start making peanut clusters and cashew clusters and peanut butter cups to play to a wider audience. Of the people that are there. When you're in a mall, you're relegated to the people that mall can draw, and that's it.
Yeah.
So we needed to get the best opportunity to sell.
Yeah.
So
Well, I mean, and I think it's really cool. I mean, because again, I mean, you didn't necessarily have a background in fudge making,
No.
but you saw an opportunity. You saw something that your cousin was doing that was, he was very successful at it. And Kansas City is a great place, especially Crown Center. Like you said, it's a very tourist based kind of destination.
Mm-hmm.
And what you did, and we talked about this a little bit earlier today, is, when you kind of started, there was a big progression of what you built, right? You started it off and you were just kind of making fudge, but you realized that as you grew, people weren't buying your fudge. They were buying an experience.
That's
and Bob, we talk about this all the time. People don't buy products, people buy people. And I think that's one of the things that truly has created an incredible experience. And what has created that iconic, lasting experience for people is you don't go down just to walk into a store. You get a full experience. So walk us through a little bit. And Bob, if you have any questions, please just cut me off.
I'm interested in, I'm wanting fudge. That's my problem.
Yeah, I know. We're sitting here. We don't have
bring somebody else on that deals with food because no.
But so walk us through the progression. So, right, you started making fudge, but what took you to that next level of saying, I'm not just selling a product, I'm selling an experience? And what was that like? I mean, were a process that were created? Walk us through a little bit of what that was like.
Well, what I did was I hired a really good friend of mine from high school who was a lot of fun. His name was Brian as well.
Oh, well, that's a good name.
Yeah.
Hopefully you spelled it right.
Of course it is. Yeah. Yes, he did.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we started just messing around, you know, hey, I think I can throw the fudge higher than you can, and how high can we get it to the ceiling? And then can we do tricks with it? And we noticed that people outside the store were seeing that and coming over to the store. And I thought, well, you know what? That's a great attention getter.
Yeah.
And so eventually we did some more store remodels. We remodeled 2 or 3 times, ended up being able to open the side of the store where we could talk to people while we were making the fudge. And then my personality came out, and that's where the smart aleck remarks came from, and all the jokes, like one of my favorite, but I had to explain it to a lot of people. It was, they would go, "Oh, is that a granite table?" And I go, "Oh no, that's marble. Please don't take it for granted." And just don't get jokes. And Michael will tell you, I am really not too bad at coming up with dad jokes on the.
Well, Brian, this kind of goes back to what we've talked about before. Where we've got our entrepreneurs that are doing shows and things like that. And Steve, I know you've done a lot of that stuff too. But how important it is to get your personality out there, right? I mean, it's a product. Fudge is a product, right? No different, Brian. We talk about the folks that sell honey and Liberty. Honey's a product, but it's that showmanship that comes along with it, Steve, that you bring. I've known Steve a long time too, and that's a piece of it. That's what people want to be entertained, right? Let's have fun. I'll spend my money with you, but entertain me just a little bit, And I was laughing with Brian here when we were doing one of our podcasts, and Sandy and I bought, I don't know, $100 worth of equipment that you could open a wine bottle with. That was a blast, and we didn't really need it, but the guy was so good and so funny, and he had people around him, and you're going like, "Oh, this is worth $100 for the show," right? Yeah. And I think, Steve, that's the thing that you bring to it. And I think, when you're as an entrepreneur, whether you're doing a store like what you're doing, Steve, or Brian, if you're selling something else, it's a little bit, you got to make sure you're getting your personality in there, because, like I say, people buy people, not products and services. So I think, Steve, that's the big piece you bring to the table.
Well, and I think one of the things, is having that personality is great. And having that, that experience is awesome. But I think that, a lot of people look at the fudge shop and go, well, this has got to be this massive money maker, but there's a lot behind what it did to take. I mean, luckily you never had to deal with inflation. You never had to deal with bad employees. Your customers were always the nicest.
Were they?
Well, I mean, I saw a YouTube video. I think
Okay.
But walk us through. I mean, what were
Yeah.
some of the struggles? Because as young entrepreneurs out here,
Mhm.
I mean, let's be honest, right? You weren't profitable your first month.
I wasn't.
I mean, you could have been. I don't know, but I'm going to assume you weren't profitable your first month. But what were
I
some
wasn't I wasn't profitable till my 30th year. So
I'm
that's
still working
that's
on
when
it.
he fired his son, so he could actually
exactly right. I reduced my overhead.
reduce the overhead.
Right.
So, but no, so tell us a little bit. I mean, there was a lot of processes that you had to put in place, right?
Right.
And you had to deal with. There was a lot of things that you had to deal with, whether it was inflation. I mean, the cost of your products. You weren't using cheap ingredients because you wanted a high quality product, and so but that cost a lot of money, and that you got inflation, and then you have your customers who come back and say, oh well, that's too high, or no, that's too expensive. So explain to us a little bit of, first off, what are some of the processes that you had to put in place as you grew your business, and then let's walk through what did it look like having to deal with changes in pricing of your ingredients or changing in prices of employees. Or I know that Crown Center probably wasn't a cheap place to rent a building. So as a young entrepreneur out here, someone who's saying, oh, I want to get into fudge making, what would you say would be a big process or something that you said this was something that really made a change for us? This was a turning point when I implemented this.
Well, you've shot about 20 questions at me. So let me try to handle this and just give you some experience. When I opened the shop in it was 1983. Okay. It just shows my age.
That was the same year that I think Noah built an ark. Around there, maybe.
Noah and I were best friends. How did you know that?
Yeah.
Anyway, when we first started, we went to a particular, store and bought stuff. And I started reading the labels and going, here's this company. Now, keep in mind, we didn't have the internet. Okay. So none of this was easy to find.
Yeah.
But I would do the research and find out where, for instance, the corn syrup came from.
Yeah.
And then who was the distributor. And then I would just run everything backwards until I could buy the corn syrup wholesale.
Yeah.
As cheap as I could. I'd buy pallets of sugar, because that's not going to go bad. It's okay. The stuff that wouldn't go bad, packaging, things like that, you can buy, enough to get to the next price level. Now, you don't want a whole warehouse full of it, but there's reasonable sections of that. So, you always had to try to guard that. And then I saw several businesses in and out of business at Crown Center. In fact, there were 66 stores there. And when I finally sold it over 25 years after I started it, there were exactly 2 stores that were still there when I started.
Oh, wow.
And they had also changed hands.
Yeah.
But many went out of business, including Crown Center stores.
Yeah.
But one thing I found on the independent stores was they'd get after Christmas and they'd go, we got all this money in the bank. We just went out again. Let's go spend it on this, that, and the other thing. I've got all this money. Well, they failed to plan for the off season.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I didn't do that. I didn't go out and buy a lot of stuff. I knew that January and February was coming.
Yeah.
And that it was going to be kind of tight. And then March, we had the basketball thing come, and that'd kind of help us a little bit. And then we drop back off again and until summer. So we really had to kind of ride that roller coaster.
Yeah.
And year after year after year. And, while you're talking here, keep in mind that when I started, interest rates for a business or home was 13%.
Yeah.
Your cars were 18 to 20% interest.
Yeah.
Of course, they didn't cost what they do now either, but so there were a lot of factors economically that we had to manage.
Yeah.
Not to mention the days in January that I'd stand down there and not sell a thing all day because nobody came by.
Yeah. Well, and
so you have to plan for that, you know?
And I think that that's something that every entrepreneur has to deal with or has to learn at some point. I mean, Bob, from the dealership world, I mean, I'm down here at a dealership right now in Southern Missouri, and you know, being at this dealership, like, it's slow. It's their slow season, and you can't burn through your cash flow when the cash flow is there. You've got to be able to plan for that. What is one thing, Bob, that you tell dealers, or advice that you give them as they're moving into a slow season or as they're coming off of their heavy season? What are some things that you encourage, you know, dealers that will transfer over to every type of entrepreneur?
Well, stack cash. I go back in. It's all about cash flow. And I think, Stephen, to your point, I don't care what business it is, ours included, is you have a slow season. You know, our slow season for us is when dealers are busy, because we don't have a lot of new dealers sign up for us because they are stacked and packed time to do it. So we're just like everybody else. You know, the other thing that I really preach to dealers, Brian, is making sure that you're always setting aside 10% of all of your money. All of your money goes into a separate account, and that's going to be your line of credit, so to speak. Every business has a line of credit they deal with. And again, Steve, you know, in your business, when it's slow, we still got payroll and salaries and stuff like that. And maybe you can lay some of your people off. And most of the dealerships we work with, they don't lay anybody off. You know, and so really kind of stacking your cash up and just understanding that, you know, it's going to be a few years of you building cash before you're really going to have some flexibility with it. I think the other, Steve, and this goes back, I see this happen over and over again with dealerships. You know, hey, we had a really good year. We did a lot. You know, now we're giving everybody raises. And I just had this conversation literally today with a dealer, you know, and they say, well, you know, we had a good year. We want to give everybody a raise. And I go, well, keep in mind, you know, every dollar per hour you give somebody a raise costs you $3,000 for the year for that one person. Okay. And so they had like 12 people. And I said, okay, so if you give everybody a $1 an hour raise, you just increased your payroll by $36,000, which is fine, but that's forever. Okay, why not do a bonus, right? Where it's not a forever thing, because those are things that you have to think about in business. And I love the fact that people want to be generous with their money, but when you give people raises, you own it forever. You're never going to get that to take that back. And so I think that's the other thing, Brian, is just being really cautious. You know, when we talk to people about money, it's even like with raises. You know, we encourage our dealers, if you're going to give people a raise, make it the raise happen not at the first of the year. Steve, like in your case, if you gave somebody a raise in December, January and February are your two worst months. Why would you want to strangle your cash flow then? So then the raise becomes effective the first month of your busy season. Most of our dealers are busy in April. And so again, so we say we're going to give you a raise and it's effective on April 1st. So we're in our busy season, do it. Then it runs from April 1st to April 1st. But I think those are some little things there, Brian, because, you know, Steve, to your point, cash flow is everything.
Yeah.
Just because you got a lot of money in the bank today, I don't care what business you are going to have a slow season.
Yeah.
You're going to have 2 or 3 months where you make a ton of money. You're going to have 3 or 4 months where you kind of break even. Then you're going to have a few months where you lose money. And those months that you really make it, right, those are the money you got to stack the cash, and, you know, don't go crazy with it.
Yeah, we do 60% of our business in November and December.
Right.
So, but I did put in the bonus structure on a monthly basis for my employees, and the thought process was, make more money, then why shouldn't I share it with you? You know,
yeah, no, that's exactly right.
Encourage them to go to the counter and hand out the samples and chat with people and be personable, you know, just
but
create,
you know,
fun.
Yeah, bonuses instead of hourly increases. We give our people a cost of living increase every year, you know, 3.5%, something like that. So that's not what I consider a pay raise. That's just helping them keep up with the crap that's going on. And then we try to do bonuses. We have a person on our team that does hiring for our dealers, and we give her a $50 bonus for every person that she finds that a dealer ends up hiring. So she gets a nice salary, right? She gets a cost of living raise, but Kayla's incented on helping dealers find employees that they end up hiring. We don't charge anything for it as a part of our services for our dealer, but Kayla works really hard on finding good people for dealers because she wants the $50. You know, she's a single mom with 3 kids. She's interested in the $50 a pop. And you know, she placed 180 service technicians last year.
Oh,
right?
wow.
You know,
Nice.
so, and you know, and our dealers love her because she's really works hard for us. And they go, yeah, because she gets, I don't tell them that. I said, but yeah, because she gets just every time you hire somebody, right? And, you know, and again, so that's kind of what it is. And it's that kind of performance based, Steve, like what you're saying. You want people to go out and give samples out and stuff like this. And if they're getting bonuses on that type as the business comes in, makes total sense. I'm making more money. I can pay you more money. I'm just not going to pay it to you by the hour. I'm going to give you set it up as some sort of bonus. Yeah.
Yep.
When I think one of the things, and we talk about this a lot on Unplugged, Unfiltered, around the entrepreneurial side of things, is taking your business outside of the standard walls of business. And that's something, Steve, I know that you have done substantially when it comes to shows. What made you go from, okay, I'm in these 4 walls, right? And 4 walls, a lot of times it's a box. Boxes are comfortable, right? You get comfortable in this. Hey, everything's going decent, you know, money's okay. What made you go, you know what, I'm going to take this show on the road? What made you say, I'm going to do something different, and I'm going to step out of my comfort zone, which is my storefront, and do something a little different? Because I know a lot of our entrepreneurs out here, every entrepreneur, honestly, there's expos, there's shows, there's farmer market.
Right.
But what made you say, I'm comfortable where I'm at, but I want to do something different?
Well, you know, kind of like what you were saying, you have a fixed income coming in that box.
Yeah.
Okay. If you want to generate more sales, you have to either get more traffic or figure out a different way.
Yeah.
So we figured out to put, believe it or not, a 650-pound marble table on wheels and an electric cooker, and go out to the home shows, boat shows, RV shows, and make fudge. Yeah. You know, and talk to people and hand out samples. And that helped us twofold. One, we're advertising for ourselves. People would come up and, where are you located? Crown Center. Oh, we haven't been down there forever. Come see us. You know, plus we advertise for Crown Center itself. You know, we brought more folks there. So not only did we make it, you know, money to pay for the booth space and a little bit extra, you know, and that kind of helped us get through some of the lean times as well. So, but we ended up traveling the country doing that. I mean, I've done shows in Denver, Colorado, and Minneapolis, and I've done Nashville, Omaha, just several places.
Well, I mean, luckily for you, though, I mean, the power of social media back then was just outrageous. And so you were able to really post and share everything that you were doing.
I'm guessing Steve did a lot on X about 5 years ago.
But
you know, Brian, that kind of goes back to the point you and I've talked about before. It is so much easier today in business, right, to grow your business than it was, Steve, when you started your business 25 years ago. There just wasn't the same kind of platforms that you could get people's attention on. And that's why I tell entrepreneurs today, you're crazy. There's so much stuff out there today that is so inexpensive or free that you can use to promote your business. For Steve, you just didn't have it. I mean, you know, let's face it. You go to these shows, sounds fun. Shows suck. Okay.
Been there, done that.
Okay, and I've been there and done that too before. Then doesn't mean you shouldn't do them, but they're hard. It's expensive. Right. I mean, you know, you're going all the time with it. So that's the piece of it. Again, I think today, Brian, you and I've talked about it's for people that say, I can't get it going. There's so much stuff out there today. So much stuff out there that you can use that, you know, businesses 5-10 years ago didn't have access to. And it's also so easy to try out things. I think, you know, Steve, that's one of the things that Brian and I've talked about on the podcast before, how much easier it is to test out an idea today because of social media, Twitter, Instagram, and things like that than it ever was before.
Yeah. My social media was trying to get a customer to go, I think I'll have a pound of fudge, and to try to get the next person to go, so shall I.
Yeah. Yeah. Your social media was in person.
Yes.
So yeah.
Word of mouth, so to speak.
Absolutely. Well, and that goes back again, is you were able to create something that was so iconic, and people said, oh, hey, if you're in Kansas City, you have to go to the Fudge Shop.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I had friends who, because of course I grew up in Minnesota. I had my best friend that I grew up with in Minnesota. He had come to Kansas City. He had actually brought his kids and came and visited me. And I was like, while you guys are down here, you guys have to go check this out. And that, that's outside of even just social media, but the ability that you were able to create, or the atmosphere you were able to create, is something that sticks with, generation after generation. And then even to this day, I still, I have encouraged people to go check it out, because it's such a fun experience, that you just don't get that in retail anymore. I mean, when's the last time you've gone into a store and you're excited to be in a store? I can't tell you the last time that was. I don't go into a store excited at all, especially if I have my kids with me.
Well, the other thing, again, Steve, what you do, and this kind of goes to the farmer market and things like this, they see you actually making a product. I mean, it'd be like going into, a clothing store and they're actually sewing together pants. I mean, people go like, that's actually pretty fascinating. I mean, there's an experience that you give with that you gave to people. I think it goes back again, Brian, to the experience. What we're trying to do in business is let people have this experience, this emotional connection with us, which, Steve, is what you did with people. I mean, who does not like fudge? I mean, you may have to take another shot of insulin, but it is worth the insulin shot. To go through it. So, I think that's just so much of it. So, Steve, because you went through a lot of temporary help, as you were going through that, and you didn't keep people employed, most of your people, not 12 months out of the year. What were your biggest challenges in finding people for the type? So if I'm a business out there and I'm looking for, kind of part-time or seasonal help, what was your biggest challenge in finding people?
Well, first of all, the biggest challenge of where we were located, downtown Kansas City. It wasn't the top neighborhood to be searching for employees.
Yeah.
We went to the colleges around the area and let people know we were hiring. We got lucky and got a couple good employees, and we're like, hey, who do you know? If you've got somebody that's good and honest and does a great job, they're going to have friends.
Right.
And back in those days,
unlike Brian and I, who have no friends.
Yeah, we have no friends because we're not fun. We're not honest. But we do like to have a good time at other people's expenses.
Always. I'm committed to that. So go ahead, Steve.
Me too. So, but yeah, the employees were the biggest problem. One of my favorite stories is a girl that I'd actually known for a long time. But she came to work for me just to help for Christmas, and she finally left and found a better job about 6-8 years later.
Yeah.
Wow.
Does that sound familiar, Bob?
Yeah.
I just need your help for a couple seasons, and 15 years later, here I am.
15 years later, you're still doing dealerships for me, just like you're doing today, right?
Exactly. I'm still doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you forget how to do a turnaround on a dealership?
No, it came back.
It all came back
pretty naturally. Yeah.
I appreciate you helping. I appreciate you helping that dealer out for me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
that dealer appreciated it too.
Yeah, they truly. I think they enjoyed what we were able, or what I was able to bring to the table for them. So it was fun. It was honestly a little bit of a nice break from the typical grind of building a software company.
Yeah.
I was like, I kind of like doing this, and then I thought about
it. Wasn't too hard to get back.
I don't like it that much.
Was it too hard to get back in the saddle?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. So Steve, if as you grew your business, and I know employees were a big struggle, what was another really big struggle that you think maybe other entrepreneurs out here say, I'm the only one who's experiencing that? What was something that was a struggle as you were building the business? You're like, I've got to be the only business. Bob and I talk about it all the time. We've done so many things in business. We're like, well, I'm a complete dumbass. No one can be as dumb as I am. making that mistake or going through this struggle. But what would be one struggle that you would
There are
say-
things, Brian, that I truly believe that nobody can be as dumb as I am. So
Yeah,
just
that's
just a heads up.
to me as well. There's a lot of things, but
Okay, folks, I know both of these people. None of this is true.
we like to have fun. So
Right.
So what was one struggle? What was one of the biggest struggles that you know, as an entrepreneur, as you were building KC Fudge, now Chips Chocolate Factory, what was that one struggle that you go, man, this was
Well, I kind of go back to that box thing that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Yes, we got out there and did the shows, and the shows, you know, are up and down as we discussed. And so I thought, you know, we've got to find another. What if we can draw our own customers to ourselves?
Yeah.
What can we do to do that? So I came up with an idea to get cocoa beans in their raw form,
Mm-hmm.
cocoa nibs, and then the white chocolate, dark chocolate, milk chocolate, and then marketed to Boy Scout groups, church groups, Girl Scout groups, that type of thing, and have them bring their group down.
Yeah.
Now, some of them were coming down anyway to go to the Coterie Theater, to go ice skating, or go to the visitor center, which I tried to pull everything together and cross promote, but there was a power that be that wasn't going to have that.
Yeah.
So, but what I did was we brought these groups in, and I knew when they were coming, so we'd start a batch of fudge so that it was ready to pour on the table when they walked in the door, so they got to see that. As it cooled, I took them through how chocolate was made. You know, hey, did you know that chocolate grows on trees, but it doesn't grow like nuts do? It actually grows on the trunk of the tree.
No,
And
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah.
I mean, I wish I knew someone who owned a chocolate factory.
Yeah. I wish you'd paid attention. I would have told you.
Yeah.
Anyway, so, you know, it's in pods and you break it open. And I took them just through the whole process on how chocolate is actually made.
Yeah.
So it was educational. And then we'd turn the fudge and we'd throw it in the air and we'd give them fresh hot samples. And
Yeah.
kids thought it was great. We'd send them home with a half slice of fudge, and they had a good time.
Yeah.
So, you know, the idea was going home, hey, Mom and Dad, guess what we did today? And then next time Christmas comes around, Mom and Dad wants to come down. And I think we actually built, you know, the business with that. You just have to be innovative. You have to look and go, where is it that I can do something different that no one else is doing?
Yeah.
That makes me unique and makes this fun.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we did.
Well, and I think a lot of business owners, and whether they're burnt out, whether they're tired, whether they're stressed, right, is they get rid of the fun in business, right? And you've got to have fun in your business. You've got to enjoy what you're doing, because it rubs off on your customers. If I'm sitting in there, and Bob and I've talked about this, if I'm sitting behind my booth at a show or at a farmer's market and my arms are crossed,
Right.
like, what do you want?
We see it all
Right.
the time.
That gets rid of that fun,
Right.
and no one wants to do business with
Right.
you. And so I think that, you know, using that as a struggle, right, I think every business owner experiences that. They get stuck in their box of comfort, right, in their four walls, and they don't want to necessarily continue to innovate, to continue to build. And you have to do that as an entrepreneur, as a business owner. You have to be innovative. Well, if you're one of our competitive softwares, you don't have to. You just lock people into really long contracts, but that's a completely different podcast. But with that being said, is you got to innovate. You've got to have fun with what you're doing. You've got to love what you're doing. And I mean, I think that you truly loved, you know, making fudge and entertaining people. It truly was a hell of a show to watch when you got to come down. Now, I couldn't have said that when I first came and saw it, because I probably would have gotten in trouble at my private Christian school if I said this was a hell of a show. It'd have been satanic. We would have done an exorcism, but I still would have had some
been in
good
trouble.
probably. But you've got to innovate. You got to have fun, and I think that's really important.
Yep. And we tried to do that, you know, as well, with handing out the samples and giving our employees the tools to work with.
Absolutely.
Sometimes they'd use them and sometimes they didn't, you know, but It's like, hey, just hand out samples to people. Well, they say, no, I don't care. Try it again. You're offering to give them something.
Absolutely.
You're not offering to take anything. So that was one thing that we did.
Well, let's talk about empowering your employees with tools. Bob and I talked about this on a podcast I want to say a couple podcasts ago, but we've done a lot of them now. So it's probably been a lot longer ago. But we talked about is creating freedom in your business, right? Mm-hmm. And to create freedom in your business, you have to give your employees the tools and analogy of, I can have a kite, and if I've only got 8 inches of string out, it'll fly as long as I'm running at full speed, right? But the more you let that kite out, the more it catches the wind, the more it'll fly. So what were some of the tools that you gave your employees, or what were some of the freedoms that you gave your employees that allowed you to have more freedom in your business?
Well, that's a good question.
That's why I asked it.
Yeah. I'm surprised you ask a good question.
Me too.
I'm just as shocked as you, Steve.
I don't like how this podcast is turning out. You guys have a good night.
It works better when we're in their studio, right?
Right.
More control.
Yeah.
Like I say, the samples. One of my favorite stories. I had this girl that was just super shy and didn't really want to go to the counter, and she was afraid of people. And I showed her, here, just hand them a sample, just offer it to them when they first come in the door. And by the way, you got like 6 seconds to get someone's attention when they walk in the door.
Yeah.
So my goal was to have somebody going, hi, welcome to the shop. Hey, how about a sample of fudge? And have a sample of like creamy chocolate, our base chocolate, ready to go.
Yeah.
And hand them something. And once she saw some smiles and some people going, wow, that's really good, then she kind of got into it. She's like, cool. She understood. She's there to give them something, give them an experience. And, they loved it.
Yeah.
It was cool. And she became my best person. She was on the counter all the time. She was the fastest person up there, and just super sweet, big smile all the time. And so that was one tool. And then I gave them the freedom to, make the fudge and use our jokes and things like that to create the experience for
Absolutely.
people.
Well, and then that goes back again, and Bob and I talked about it. I talked about it with the dealer. We sat down and had lunch with the owner today. Is a lot of times you've got to start low and grow, right? Mm-hmm. Right. You might find someone who, all of the tools they've got the personality, right? They've got everything that they need. They just need that push, right? They need that, hey, you've got this. I've got your back. I'm going to support you. And I think a lot of businesses lack that, where, it's okay, if I make this mistake, my boss is going to tear me to pieces. They're going to do this. Right. No, it's okay to make mistakes. Try different things. Experiment. I want that. I want my team to try different things and have, great ideas. I talked to my whole development team a couple of weeks ago, and I think we had 15 of the developers on there. And, I told them, I said, what we're building with Triton is different. It's innovative. It's new. But if you guys have an idea that might empower our dealers to be better, come to me with that idea. I want you to think outside of the box. I don't want you to just fit a mold. But once you do that, right, that allows them to fly, which allows you to step back and focus on building the business or working on the business, not always in the business.
Right. Yeah, exactly. If you're working, the old saying, it's if you're working in your business, you're not working on your business.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
But in the candy business, though, you kind of do. I wanted to be there to talk to people, and we also, did kettle corn, and we separated that out and had shows, and recently sold that to some super sweet people. Lolly and Jake are they're just amazing. Lolly's been with me for so long. She's so creative and so good at what she does. I can't wait to see what they do. Now, It's not in my business anymore, but I'm here to help them. If they'll just reach out, just say, hey, Steve, I don't know about this or that. And they know that.
Yeah.
They know they can call me anytime.
Well, and I think that we touch on that point all the time, is there is not an entrepreneur out there
Exactly.
that if you need something, if you have a question, if you need help, if you just reach out, there's not an entrepreneur, a true entrepreneur out there that's going to say, no, I'm not going to help you. All entrepreneurs want to see other entrepreneurs thrive. I mean, that's part of our, I don't know, call it a disease.
I can't wait to see Lolly.
Well, every entrepreneur has gone through. Every entrepreneur has gone through what every other entrepreneur has gone through. I think the fallacy that a lot of young entrepreneurs think, again, and Brian, it's like you talked about in the very beginning of the podcast. Well, nobody has this problem. I mean, everybody has these problems. Okay.
Yeah, right.
And again, I think as you're working with entrepreneurs that have got through all of this crap and they're still going through it, but it doesn't bother them like it used to because they've got the money now to do it with. But, I think that's the mistake that a lot of young, and when I say young, again, I'm always not referring to young in age, but, you can be 60 years old and a brand new entrepreneur. So, people that are young, starting out entrepreneurs, is they just don't understand how much other experienced entrepreneurs, regardless of the industry, because regardless of the industry, a lot of it's the same kind of stuff you deal with, but how much these people love, they will go out of their way to help you succeed. And I think that's something I tell everybody. They are out there and they are full of wisdom. As I tell Brian, we talked about before, I tell people, just listen to what I tell you to do, shut up and do what the hell I tell you to do, and you will be successful. Right?
I'm full of
it's that simple. It really is that simple. I've been there, done it. Listen to what I'm telling you. It's kind of like Cass and Mike, right? Listen to what Cass and Mike tell you, or Gary Vee. Listen to what he says. Shut up. Do the hell what he says, and you'll do fine.
I actually don't listen to most of what Gary Vee says to me now because it's not very motivational.
No, it's not, because you know him now. So now it's a different kind of thing. I love listening to his stuff. I mean, he's really a motivational kind of guy. And the thing about Gary Vee, and same thing with Cass and Mike, they've been there, they've done it. They've made all the mistakes. I mean, gosh, if you go back and listen to Cass and Mike, and again, I'm going to promote their book, Shoveling Shit. If you're a young entrepreneur, and I don't mean young in age, but if you're a newer entrepreneur, it is a absolutely must buy book, because they've gone through it, and there's absolutely nothing that you're going to go through that Cass and Mike and even Gary Vee haven't gone through.
Well, and again, going back to their book, and we push their book every week because it's such an incredible.
It's a great book.
But with
we only push my books about once every 3 months because while they're good books, they're not great books.
You could have tried harder, but here we are. But but with their book again, and like you said, it's great for young entrepreneurs, new entrepreneurs, but even entrepreneurs who are seasoned entrepreneurs, there's a lot of incredible things. If you want to expand your business, let's say I've been an entrepreneur for 10 years and my business is doing well. But I'm still just in this brick and mortar, but I want to expand into a bigger section, into a bigger, you don't have to just be a new entrepreneur or a young entrepreneur to read the book and gain something from it. I think every entrepreneur brings a different idea, brings a different mentality. I think that's something too that you see with employees, or like you're talking about with Lolly, right? Is you've made kettle corn, you've done these shows the same way every time. And I know that they've helped you do those shows, but they're going to bring a different perspective. They're going to bring a different mindset than what you did. And you have to look at every entrepreneur. You have to look at everybody out there who's a mentor and say, they're bringing something that maybe I'm not seeing it the same way. And that's how business has evolved. That's how innovation happens. That's how greatness, a business truly becomes iconic. It was because you started making fudge, then you started making it entertainment excitement, and then you built fun and you built relationships with your customers as they came in, which has then turned into, I know that Chips is not too far from its 50-year anniversary. I mean,
you really got to bring that up right now.
Well, to a point, yes. But I think it goes back again, as I talk to dealers and people, and they go like, well, I'm different, or my area is different. I said, innovation and new ideas are not unique to your business. Okay, it's not unique to your business. I think the mistake that I see a lot of young entrepreneurs, and again, I'm stressing new entrepreneurs, not necessarily young by age, but new entrepreneurs, is they think, well, like, what I've really got to do is study every detail of everybody else in my business. That's not going to get you anywhere. You got to look outside of your business. Innovation happens outside of where you spend your whole day. You're already seeing what everybody else is doing. You're already doing the things everybody else is doing. I think the thing, again, this is the really value of taking and talking to entrepreneurs that are outside of your business, because they see things that you don't see. I think about, I was watching, I love History Channel. I was watching the show on History Channel here a while back. It was called The Men Who Made America. And the one show I watched focused on Henry Ford. And interesting guy, wasn't a very nice guy. Henry Ford apparently was not a very nice guy. But anyway, but he was very successful, right? And the thing that was interesting is everybody credits Henry Ford with inventing the assembly line, which really isn't true at all. Henry Ford was at a meat packing company, a plant, and they had these sides of beef on these trolleys, and they were moving these trolleys through, and as they moved them to a certain spot for butchering, a group of guys did this butchering, then the trolley moved forward to the next one, and he's sitting there going, I credit him with what he did, but he's going like, damn, why couldn't we move auto parts the same way they're moving sides of beef? And so he did create the whole concept of the assembly line for automotive, but he got the idea from being in something that was totally different than what he did, but he had the mindset. I mean, the thing that Henry Ford had was he was an entrepreneur's entrepreneur, okay? But he had the mindset of he was looking for good ideas any place. And I think that's the mistake that a lot of young entrepreneurs make is they think, oh, I have to just look in my world where there are experienced entrepreneurs that maybe have never done Fudge, maybe have never done fairs, but these guys and gals know business. They know hiring, they know promotion, stuff like this. And I think it's a huge mistake. And I know, people talk about Mike and Cass and go like, well, they've never done what I'm doing. Shit, they've done 1,000 times more than you're doing. Much more. So you got to kind of get out of that mindset and going, I'm only looking for ideas in my industry. The real creative ideas, we call it leapfrogging. The real leapfrogging ideas come with you looking at things outside of your business, outside of your industry. That's where the innovation comes from. And I think that's a mistake that entrepreneurs make.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So as we're kind of wrapping up for tonight, one of the things, and we're going to do this, is a little different. And Steve gets to be our guinea pig on this, which is great. Thanks for being voluntold to do that. But as we're kind of wrapping this up, and this is something that we're going to kind of move forward as we do our Unplugged Unfiltered podcast. But as we're wrapping up, Bob, what is one 30-second takeaway from tonight's podcast, Building an Icon? What is one takeaway in a 30-second clip that you would push to entrepreneurs from tonight's podcast?
Mine's an easy one. And again, I've known Steve for a long time. Your business is your personality, right? It's got to be your personality. People buy people, not products and service, like I said before. And one of the things that Steve did early on and figured out early on, and he and his friend were screwing around, kind of playing around with throwing fudge and doing stuff like this. But what Steve realizes was that was kind of fascinating to people. It was like this little show they were doing, this little skit that they were doing, that attracted people to them. And I think, again, it's that you've got to let your personality come out. You've got to let those things come out, and then just be aware of the fact that, hey, people kind of like that. Screw it, just blow out this side of the building. This put a place where people can watch that, and they'll come and do it. So to me, that was my takeaway. There's a lot of takeaways from the night, but I think that's the thing to me, Brian, in the 30, 28, 29, 27 seconds I have left. That was the thing to me that really stood out. Steve took his personality, and his business became a part of that personality.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So Steve, what is a 30-second thing if you could push to an entrepreneur out there? And it can be a lot of what Bob said, but in your words,
because most of what I said was correct.
So if you could in 30 seconds, if you had an entrepreneur and said, Steve, I am struggling with my startup, what would be a 30-second elevator pitch that you would say to an entrepreneur?
What Bob said.
Just listen to what Bob said.
No, come on, Steve. You've been doing this a long time.
Oh man, that's I don't know that I would have to know what the business would be in.
I mean, and just
and all that.
anybody who's
I think just have passion.
yeah,
Have the passion for what you're doing, and like you say, let your personality come out. I mean, I said 100 times, I own a candy store. What do you want from me?
Yeah.
I mean, I put sugar on stuff and sell it for a living. What are you going to ask for me?
You're a drug dealer. That's
right.
What you're a drug dealer.
Exactly. What do I know? I just put sugar on stuff.
Well, I go back to Steve. You and I are both pilots, and one of the things we learned on our first landing by ourselves, the next one's better. The more you do, the more you do things, right? Your first one's going like, dear God, I'm glad I was in a Cessna 150 that could take a drop 4 foot in the air and land.
Right.
But
I remember my first solo.
We all remember our first solo, but they were all ugly and we're shocked that we got to fly.
Right.
But anyway, I think that's, to me, again, Steve, it's like, you tried different things, did different things. You started with 8 different varieties. You can have any one you want as long as it's this 8. Then you went into clusters. I mean, you continued to expand because you had a very limited market. Because Crown Center, you weren't in. The people that came to you through Crown Center. And I think, to me, that's the other kind of cool thing you did. You continued to look at expanding your offering, understanding that you do have a limited audience, and everything you've got a limited amount of time, and you got to sell this audience as much as they can buy.
Right.
To me.
And to that
so
point,
that's your 30-second response, Steve.
And to your point, Bob, we actually, when we started, we're located in the food court area. You don't want to put a candy store in a food court area because by 1 o'clock in the afternoon, no one was around. Right. Which is one reason when we got the opportunity to move to the second floor, I was like, oh, absolutely, that's where we want to be. Yeah. And things definitely improved substantially. Location. Yeah.
Well, and I think for me, as we're kind of, again, as we're wrapping this up, is don't be afraid to innovate, right? Don't be afraid to push to the boundaries. And now is the best time to do that. I can test so many innovations. I can test so many different options, different products, different, whatever it is that you sell as an entrepreneur, you can test it on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube.
Exactly.
You can test it to such a massive market in such a small time frame with such a small dollar amount. Don't be afraid to try it. And if it fails, don't look at that as a failure. Look at that as a learning experience. Say, okay, this didn't work. How do I make it better? How many times did you try something like, well, that peanut cluster didn't work? And did the very first peanut cluster you ever made, was that the best peanut cluster you ever made? Probably not. No, but you kept tweaking it. You kept adjusting it. You kept putting it out there for customers to try. And you did testing on it constantly until you finally found, okay, this is the recipe that works. This is the price point that works. This is the packaging that works. You have to be okay to change all of those things to make sure that they match what the customer is desiring at that time. And when you get stale or when you get stagnant, that's when businesses fail.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and again, Brian, kind of playing off that idea, because I think this is the other thing. People say, well, I did this and it didn't work. Well, congratulations. Okay. 90% of the crap you try is not going to work in business. It's the fact that it's the one that does work. That's the one, right? And it's a matter of, once you know something doesn't work, trying harder to make it work is a fool's errand. Mm-hmm. It either works or it doesn't work. Right. And then if it doesn't work, then you try something different. If that doesn't work, you try something different. But you will find the thing that works. I think, again, getting stuck on, well, I've tried 5 different ways. Well, then try 6 or then try 7. Right. It's kind of like the guy that's a 400 batter in baseball, 10 times at bat, he only hits 4 times, that he fails 6 times. But we don't know when he gets to 10 times at bat, his last 4 bats might be the one he gets on base. Might be his first 4, but we know he has to get up to bat 10 times to have a 400 batting average. And I think, again, so you got to, if a guy's batting 400, he's making tens of millions of dollars in baseball, right?
Yeah.
There's nobody like him. but he still fails 60% of the time to get on base.
Should have been a baseball player.
Yeah.
And
I should have been a meter.
But I think a lot of people get caught up in that. Well, I tried it 3 different ways. Well, then try it a 4th different way. Try it a 5th different way. Don't try it the same way. Adjust, tweak, change. But I think again, that's what I've done for 40 years. There's a lot of stuff that I tried that I spent a lot of money on, didn't work, but it didn't mean that I quit. I just go, well, that's a really bad idea. I'm not going to spend that $250,000 again. Let's try this.
Yeah,
because
you know what I mean? And I go back again.
you got to find a new $250,000.
Well, but it goes back again. But if you stop, then it's over, right? If you just stay in the dugout, you're never going to get on base. And I think again, it's just don't be afraid. And you may have some big losses early on in your business. If they don't kill you, get back to the damn plate and swing again. Because you don't know when you're going to get the home run. And I think that's the failure. And there's a lot of people that quit just before they hit the home run.
Right.
And then somebody else hits it, and they go like, oh, damn, I should have stayed that long. It's too late. At that point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't give up. You got to continue to swing and understand that you're going to have more failures than you are going to have successes.
Absolutely.
It just takes one success. It just takes one.
Well, on that note, we are going to wrap it up. So I'm going to leave you with one thing to play off of what Bob just said. So what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, except for bears. Bears will kill you. On that note, it has been a great week. We appreciate you guys tuning in. And we're going to go ahead and unplug. Thank you, Steve, so much for joining us tonight. It's been great.
It's been fun.
Kind of bummed we don't have any candy, but we'll
we
have
can
you back.
fix that.
Next time.
I know a guy.
You know a guy.
You know a guy.
But with that, thank you guys so much. We appreciate everybody. Make sure that again you check out our website if you've missed any of our old podcasts. They're all on our website, unpluggedunfiltered.com. You can check us out Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitch, YouTube, all of the social medias. You can check us out there. But we appreciate you all so much every single week tuning in. With that, we are unplugging. Good night, everybody. Thanks again, Steve. Catch you guys next week here on Unplugged Unfiltered.
Thanks.
Never disappoint, so we have coincidentally stumbled on a legend.